Hi, it's Ashley from AB Sound Advice. Today we are doing a product review on the Rogers LS/35A bookshelf speakers. Now, if you haven't heard of Rogers, Rogers have been around for over 75 years, very long, very old brand actually, BBC authorised speakers. The BBC years ago wanted a speaker that would be great for their for monitoring in their studios, and Rogers and BBC got together and came together with this fantastic model that we're listening to today. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the specs like we always do. And again, they're British-made speakers, and I think they've sold between 60 and 100,000 of these worldwide. So they're certainly a very popular pair of bookies. And sound-wise, well, wow, we'll get to that in a moment, because really it's hard to believe we've got a little 4-inch driver in there, and what we're getting out of these is incredible. Now, you have to ignore the stands. They're not actually stands. They're actually the powered monitors, the powered subwoofers, that are made for these speakers. I will cover that off in a combined review with the bookshelf and the sub combined. But today we'll just deal with the speakers on top of those powered monitors, powered subwoofers, So first off, it's a two-way infinite baffle bookshelf. We have a frequency response between 80 Hz and 20 kHz with a plus and minus of 3 dB. We have a, well, yeah, you're ready for this, 15 ohms. So you might think, oh, 15 ohms. 15 ohms is okay on any 8 ohm amplifier. You shouldn't have any stress with it. Just in some of the smaller amplifiers, you may find that you're just going to get to the top of the level, and the volume may not be there. So again, it's not a biggie, but I suggest you certainly want to be a minimum of a genuine 50 RMS of a good quality amplifier, or a high-end sort of valve around the 20 RMS mark would be a good starting point. Right, we also have a mid-bass driver, which is a Betrine cone, 110mm, which is around about the 4-inch mark. The tweeter is a Malar Dome, 19mm. Crossover frequency is 3 kHz. Sensitivity 82.5 dB, and you can see there again the sensitivity. We can see when we need that big amp. The finish today we're dealing with is in a rosewood, but it comes in a walnut and an olive. The grill is a black, which you can see over here. I've got one with the grill on, one with the grill off, just so we can have a look at that in a moment. The dimensions are 305 by 190 by 165 millimeters, and we have a weight of 4.9 kg per speaker, and a recommended amplifier, as I mentioned before, between 30 and 80 watts. But as I said, I would be preferring the upper side of that. And of course, the BBC licensed LS3-5A, so they pay 10% of the total speaker cost is going back to the BBC for their license of all the research and R&D that they've put into these speakers. So that aside, let's go and have a look at the speakers themselves. And I must say that the wow factor of these are just sensational. The finish, and again, they are tiny. This is a very small speaker, and when I did first fire these up without the woofers playing, just the bookshelf itself, I was just taken back by the sound that this little guy was producing. And we'll just come around the back so you can see. Again, you can see I've got the terminals plugged into the rear. You can see handwritten on the back there, serial numbers. So all handmade. It's a beautiful wood. You can see here, obviously you can see that you may think, oh, that's a little bit rough, but again, in a commercial sense, it's a full. You can see here they've used, it's Velcro all the way around, so there's no movement from the grill whatsoever. Once it clicks in, it pretty well locks in there pretty tight. We'll come across to the other one. You can see here with the grill on, it really is a sensational finish. And again, you can see that your finger just ducks into this little thing here. You really do have to put a fair bit of force on that to get it out. But again, be very gentle. You can imagine you want to be damaging those. And I think about in this part of the world, around the price point side of things, and I will actually just cover that off. Where we are in this part of the world, I think by memory, these are around, I'm just having a look now, about the 8K mark for a pair of those. And you might think, wow. Well, it is wow. I mean, one thing I'll say about the Rogers is they're renowned for the voices. And I've got to say, you've seen I've done a lot of reviews. I think I've just passed 850 videos on AB Sound Advice in 42 years of playing sound. These absolutely surprised me. I could not get over the sound these little guys are putting out. And I got my wife and son and family members who know are all a bit of a sound house. And they all agreed that the voices are just sensational. They really have, they provide the voices in a way that's just really engaging. It's so easy to fall in love with these speakers. And if you had a small unit, and I'm in a big place, to be honest, it's quite a big area, and I could just imagine these in a small space would be just incredible. They really are doing an amazing job even just here. Now, I also, for the first time, I've left the gear here so you could see. I mean, I normally use the Master Sound DaVinci valve amp. You'll see below I've got the power amp. That just allows me to make a high-end hybrid. So I've run them with the Master Sound directly to them. I've also run the Master Sound as a preamp and then used the Gold Note PA 1175 below, which gives me 200 RMS. And then over the other side, I'm using the Gold Note IS 1000. And the reason I went with that, it is actually an amplifier as well, but it gives me an onboard DAC. It also has the built-in phono stage, which comes from some of the high-end stuff as well. And that suited me because it just, for testing purposes, it just means I can make sure my rig's not changing too much. And above that, I'm using a Magnate valve CD player, and then above that, I'm using a Magnate 730 streamer, and then I've got the Panosa from our friends at Gold Note again, and I'm using a moving coil on the end of there. And to be honest with you, I'm very, very impressed. Very impressed. I think the best way to describe these little guys is that you think to yourself, there's not going to be much bass. And yes, don't get me wrong, I mean, there's not a lot of bass there, but there's a lot more bass than I was expecting. The voices, the attention to detail, it really is incredible, the actual sound that they're getting out of this small little speaker. And the finish is just sensational. I mean, I think when you think about speakers as a rule, they really have, it's not just a vinyl, it seems to be proper wood. It's very, very nicely presented, and as I said, sound-wise, they certainly are fantastic. So I would recommend, if you were looking for a pair of bookshelves and you don't have a lot of space and you think later on you might want to add some bass to it, what makes these unique is you can buy those bottom plinths with the built-in subs in the back, and that really does change it again. And but even with those not going, I was certainly very, very impressed. So I hope that I've helped enough out in these reviews. At the end of the day, all I could say, would I own a pair of these? Absolutely. Sound-wise, as I said, they're just so smooth and detailed and engaging. The more you play them, the more you just want to keep them. It really is a fantastic sounding pair of bookshelves. So if you'd like to find out more information about these, you can duck onto hifihq.co.nz for New Zealand. And again, I hope you've enjoyed today's product review, and we'll see you next time on AB Sound Advice.